it's Peter Wright and Kathleen Beauvais in Ontario, Canada, with episode number 103 of the Yakking Show. That's right, folks, we're on our way to our second century. This is the show for awakening you to new perspectives for the changing world we live in. Quick request, if you like our show, please subscribe to the channel you're watching or listening on. It helps us get our guests more exposure, and exposure is good for them. So, as always, we have interesting guests for you. Today is no exception. Another international guest, but I'm not going to steal Kathleen's thunder. So first, let me welcome my co-host, Kathleen from Waterloo. Hi, Kathleen. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Peter. I'm doing great. And thank you all so very much for tuning into our show. We so appreciate you, and we love reading your comments. So please keep them coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to either Peter or myself. And as Peter mentioned, we do have another special guest with us today, and she's coming all the way from Australia. So Hayley Coleborne, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here. I really appreciate the invitation to speak with you both today.
Well, the pleasure is ours. Now, Hayley, you are the co-founder and COO of Growth Gurus, which is a lead conversion marketing agency. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about your background and how you came to start Growth Gurus?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to. I'll try and give you the condensed version as much as possible. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Sydney, Australia, which is something most people know or have heard of Sydney. And I met my now husband in Canberra, which is our capital city here. And in our mid to late 20s, we moved to Melbourne, Victoria, which is another one of the major cities. And we lived there for well over a decade, quite a long time. And we had our three beautiful children in Melbourne. And my professional background is actually in retail operations. So I had a career of 20 or so great years, working with some of Australia's most well-known retail brands. And yeah, I spent many years, working and training different teams across the country, largely in how to connect with customers, how to sell products, how to run a retail business, and how to connect with the customer. So I always loved the introduction of online shopping. I'm of an age where I remember where that started to, really get some traction, and I loved that. And I was always attracted to the world of e-commerce, to be able to sort of take what I did and what I loved in a bricks and mortar setting and move that into an online digital space was always something that I thought was really cool, and I really thought that was the way of the future. So so that was sort of what I did for the majority of my career. And my husband, Matt, he came from the world of advertising. So he agency side predominantly, and for the most part, but he's always been in business for himself in some capacity. He started his first business when he was still in high school, running a swim school out of his parents' home. So very, very much had the entrepreneur spirit, which I always probably really admired. And in 2010, not long after our first son was born, so I don't know if that was great timing or not, but we decided to start our very first agency in Melbourne. And over the years, that grew to be quite a large business. We went through a series of different acquisitions and mergers as the business grew, and we brought new partners into the mix. We had a lot of learnings during that time, and we reached a stage where, when we were able to exit out of that business, we just felt like we needed a new adventure. We needed a bit of a change in direction. And I think that's quite an interesting part when you get to a point in your life where you sort of start to reassess the direction that you're going in. And I remember very clearly walking around the backyard of our home in Melbourne with Matt, brainstorming and thinking about what's next, and I look back now and it was actually really sort of developing the mental roadmap for what went on to be the Growth Gurus. So yeah, so we did what I think a lot of people sort of dream of doing, and we decided on a sea change, and we sold off all of our house and our possessions, and we packed up our kids and our family, and we moved to a place called Port Stephens, which is on the mid-north coast. It's about 3 hours from the major city of Sydney, and it's a semi-rural area. It's a peninsula, so we're surrounded by beautiful coastline, and, you know, a beautiful, beautiful spot to raise our family. And after we arrived in our new hometown, you know, we already had sort of planted the seeds for the Growth Gurus, and we really got to work. You know, we had this beautiful town and this picturesque scenery, and it sort of cleared out all of the you know, the stuff that we had going on from the move. And we focused on the Growth Gurus, and we started to strategize and do a lot of research, and really identify that there was a gap in the market. We felt there was a gap in the market at that point, and it was an opportunity for us. So yeah, we put in some long hours, you know, and started to, you know, put the building blocks in place for the business, and got started. And yeah, here we are today.
Wow, very good. Excellent. So one thing I picked up from looking at your website and talking to someone the person who suggested we get you on the show, and I'm really glad they did that, is you appear to be a lot more focused than most digital marketing agencies. I think you've explained a little bit in your story now how you came to be specialized. Tell us a little bit more why you specialize exactly where you are now with customer acquisition and conversion marketing.
Yeah. That's a great question. So we were very sort of clear from the get-go what we wanted to focus on, and it was always our goal to be highly specialised. We came from a full-service environment. We didn't want to recreate that. We never aimed to be full service or, you know, a 360-degree agency. You know, we had a roadmap right from conception, and we wanted to partner with the best technology platforms. And focus specifically on working with direct-to-consumer lifestyle brands that were small to medium in size. That's where we felt there was an opportunity. You know, and when we did our research, we really, you know, identified that, you know, there's no other digital marketing tactics that have yet to outperform the online sales of email. You know, it's affordable for most, and it's effective, and, you know, it's highly personalized, and that was something that was really interesting. So we focused on partnering with the technology platforms, you know, that we needed to be able to achieve that goal. Yeah, and then we went about resourcing a team of people that could, you know, drive performance in that space. But yeah, it was always our goal, and it was always the vision for this business that we would be gurus, hence our name, you know, gurus in that space, and not try to be things to all people, but be really good at the things that we had chosen to focus on.
Very good. There's a huge lesson in what you just said there. Great. Over to Kathleen.
So Hayley, you work with a team that is located literally all over the world, and everybody works remotely. What are some of the challenges to that, and what are some of the benefits? And how do you manage a team that's located globally?
Yes, yeah. Oh, look, it was I might sort of talk about the why first, if that's okay.
Sure.
And then we'll talk about how we manage it. There was a number of reasons why we considered a remote team and why that model was attractive. Firstly, you know, we moved to, as I mentioned before, a remote area. So that was a consideration for us, meaning that, you know, we didn't have access to a city where we could have, you know, a traditional business. So that was a consideration initially. We loved the idea of building a team and a business where people could have some flexibility, and remote work offers that. Especially being a mum of 3 children, I found as I had those children and I was working in more traditional roles that the rigidity of those roles became quite hard to juggle. And, you know, especially as our family grew. So I suppose from a personal perspective, that was a goal, that we wanted to try and have a more flexible working environment so we could have a broader range of skill set in our business. And we initially, from a sales perspective, focused our sales efforts on the North American market. And we still do to this day. So we have about a 60-40 split between US brands and Australian brands working with us. And we knew to be able to service those brands, you know, just from a time zone, you know, just considering time zones, that we needed a global team, you know, so that we could, you know, deliver the best experience for those brands. You know, so that they were kind of some of the reasons why initially. I thought it was a great idea and it was really attractive, and I was right in for it. How we manage it, well, we've really created a business here that it has a workspace environment that facilitates remote work and collaboration. We use things like Asana for project management. We use Slack. We have all of our clients and our team in individual Slack channels. We use things like Google Drive, so easy to share collaborative documents, and obviously Zoom. I don't know what we did without Zoom.
No.
Got such a place in today's world. Yeah, and one of the other things that we take advantage of is we have mandatory online hours that all of our team agrees to. So that means that we have consistency in our working roster. And as we've grown over the last couple of years, most of our team are now engaged full-time with us, and they work, you know, the majority of their week in our business. So, you know, they're able to focus on their roles here. If I'm being very balanced and transparent though, at the start, it was very challenging. You know, there were challenges that I hadn't actually even thought about. You know, remote work, it tends to attract a lot of freelancers and, you know, digital nomads when people could travel easily. You know, people not necessarily looking for a permanent engagement. You know, so we turned over more team members in the first couple of years than was ideal, you know, while we were sort of trying to fine tune, you know, our recruitment process and, you know, asking the right questions and getting the right engagement from those people. But over that time, you know, we have found some of our key, you know, team members who I'm so grateful for every day. You know, we've got people here that have been with us for over 2 years now. You know, so we've got some consistency in the faces and the names that you see at the Growth Gurus, which I think is really important to our clients and our portfolio of clients. So I think, you know, if you asked me, you know, 6 months in, is the remote model, you know, the one that you thought it would be, I probably would have said no. But you know, I consistently went back to the why of why we did it initially. And I really, truly believed, along with Matt, that it was the right model for us. And we just sort of kept consistently, you know, going after the right team. And, you know, we got to where we are today. And I do think it is the right model for us, and also for our clients and the brands we work with.
Right.
Excellent.
I just want to hop in. I have another question, Peter. You touched on this. You said that your client base is 60% North America, 40% Australian. Is there a reason that you've targeted the North American market more than the Australian?
Yeah, I think initially we just felt like there was more opportunity in that space. It was obviously a much bigger market for us, and you know, the research that we did just identified that you know, there was a lack of you know, agencies or digital agencies doing what we were saying that we could do. And we are a partner agency now. We are a platinum partner agency with Klaviyo, and we just felt that there was a real opportunity in that space. So that's kind of what our research uncovered, and it proved to be correct. You know, we still do have a lot of amazing clients, you know, in that space. So yeah, that's why.
Excellent.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you how the coronavirus restrictions have affected your business. But before I do, I'm going to suggest that what's happened over the last year because of the virus has sort of vindicated your decision to set up a remote team, because now most of your clients are having to do exactly the same thing, and your competitors, for if there are any, also scrambling. So you had a year's start or more than a year's start on many of those people, right? So what has the effect been?
Yes, wow, what a year 2020 was. It's you know, like most businesses, I think, you know, we really didn't know what to expect. You know, it was such an unknown time, you know, and it still is, unfortunately, for a lot of countries. Like you mentioned, Peter, we were already set up for remote work. So from that perspective, nothing really changed, you know, and I think if anything, our teams were just really grateful that we're already working, you know, in that space and could continue to do so. But, you know, from a business perspective, we just got really busy, like almost overnight.
Yeah.
We were already busy. We were already busy, but yeah, it just kind of like skyrocketed, you know, our business, which did sort of catch us off guard because we, you know, obviously didn't plan for that to happen so quickly. So, you know, we had to sort of recruit and, you know, increase our team so that we could service our existing brands and the new ones that came in. You know, and I suppose, you know, we largely work with e-commerce brands, and with most of the world's, you know, pushed inside their homes, you know, without access to their usual services, you know, people started shopping online like never before. You know, and I suppose what a lot of the businesses that we were working with found is that if they were in a position where they had stock and they had inventory left to sell, a number of them, you know, had some challenges if they were sourcing inventory from overseas, getting it in. But if they had inventory left to sell, they found themselves sort of in a position where they were doing more orders than they had ever done before. But this growth of new orders was coming from new customers, you know, that had sort of sourced out their brand, you know, because it's become a need that they, you know, that they want to engage with. So, you know, you know, that new focus of new customers coming in, you know, and the volume of new customers, you know, obviously highlighted for them that they needed to do some extra work there. And we helped a lot of those clients to develop some more sophistication in their retention marketing. So focused on all of the key things that we do around, you know, email, SMS, and specifically loyalty, you know, so that they could capture those new customers, make sure that they had a great experience, and that they were able to look at strategies to retain them, you know, after that time where, you know, hopefully the world went back to sort of semi-normal way of living.
Right. Okay, interesting.
How have the advances in artificial intelligence helped your customers?
Yes. So, look, it allows us, I suppose, AI allows us to have a much more informed view of customer behaviour. So it's customer behaviour in real time, you know, and it's much more targeted. So we can deliver more targeted and specific content, you know, in our delivery. So much more than you could ever obtain manually, which is what makes it so powerful, you know, and it's just not enough to have an excellent product, you know, and a functioning website. And, you know, most entrepreneurs, founders, they know that. So, you know, they expect to drive growth through real-time data. And, you know, the customer journey is one that, you know, we really want to nurture towards the first sale, but continue to engage with and nurture well beyond that. And, you know, tools like Klaviyo, you know, which we talk about a lot with our brands, and its unique AI capabilities, it means that we're able to build out, you know, things like automated AI workflows, you know, to target specific interests so that the content that we're delivering is actually relevant and it's something that people are interested in and that they want to see, which ultimately will convert into a sale, and hopefully many more after that. But yeah, coming from a traditional sales environment, which I spoke to you about before, you know, where we had to rely very much on people being trained to sell to people, I find it incredibly interesting, you know, that we can actually, you know, use the data, you know, as the fuel for making those decisions. And something that we do talk to, you know, I speak to brands about a lot is I don't think that e-commerce business growth is a mystery. You know, it's not a mystery. It's the direct result of marketing efforts, you know, governed by data. You know, the data is actually the rocket fuel that, you know, forms the strategy around what we do.
Wow. Interesting. Very interesting. So with your experience, what are some of the biggest mistakes that companies make in conversion, in lead conversion?
Yeah, so some of the things that we see quite a bit would be, I suppose in the initial stages, a lack of customer journey mapping. You know, really sort of thinking about all of the different touch points that a customer is going to go through when they are interacting with your brand. You know, effective journey mapping, it's a visual story of your customers' interactions with all of those different touch points. And I think it's actually really critical for small to medium size businesses as well as large businesses, you know, and it is critical to optimizing that customer experience, you know, not just sort of thinking about, you know, one aspect, but, you know, having a clear map, sort of how we do, you know, when we got started with the Growth Gurus, we were quite specific around what that looked like. You know, that it is quite important, you know, especially in those early stages, so that you can make, you know, informed decisions that are going to be the right ones. Another thing that we sort of talk to a lot of brands about, you know, when you know, we're engaging with them specifically around email marketing, is, you know, giving up on nurturing a lead too early. You know, quite often, you know, had some experience in the email space, and they've said, oh, you know, I've had a welcome flow running or an abandoned cart flow running. It's not converting. It's, you know, it's not doing what I thought it would. And when we, you know, go and take a bit of a deep dive into their account and see what they're doing, it might only be, you know, 2 or 3 emails that they're sending to that lead, and quite often it actually takes a lot longer than that. You know, it's not uncommon for brands that we work with to be running, you know, flows and automations of 10 and 15 emails long, you know, and as long as there's strategy and thinking applied to those, you know, it can really nurture that lead towards, you know, a purchase or wherever they are in their journey with the brand. So that's a big thing. Usually brands are quite surprised around the number that we suggest they should be running in their accounts. And the other thing I would say that we see quite often is a lack of personalisation. You know, a lack of, you know, just having an understanding of where their customers are at in their journey with the brand, you know, and not sort of tailoring their content specifically to those interests. An example of that might be, you know, say if you were a fashion business or a fashion brand and you had a lead capture pop-up on the website, which we do a lot of, you know, and you were selling 3 clear categories like men's, women's and children, and you were capturing all of the details of you know, an email and maybe offering a discount, which a lot of brands choose to do, but not sort of taking the opportunity to ask what the customer's interested in. Are you shopping for men? Are you shopping for women's, or are you shopping for children? So, you know, then when they start to receive their email communication, potentially they're getting information that's just not relevant. You know, if we're sending information on children's clothing to someone that's not interested in it, you know, it's going to affect the results that we can achieve. So, you know, taking that opportunity to be a little bit more personal and, you know, asking some more profile specific questions, you know, can help to get a much better result. And probably be the 3 that I see a lot. Yeah.
So what do you think the future holds for Growth Gurus?
Yes. Wow. So much at the moment. It feels like we've got so much going on. You know, this year we are going to be growing our team, which is really exciting. I think it's always exciting when we can, you know, bring some new, fresh eyes into the business. And I know our existing team really love that too when new people start here. So that's an exciting thing. And, you know, we'll continue to work with our existing portfolio of brands and hopefully welcome a lot of new brands into the business too. One of the projects that we'll be working on, which is, I think, pretty interesting, is we're going to be working on developing like some pre-packaged options. And I'm sure that we will think of a much more fun and attractive name than pre-packaged options. But we know that, we know that a lot of brands, when they're first starting out, working with an agency partner might not be possible. And as much as we love and want to work with everybody, that's not realistic either. And, I did mention before, we have a focus on Klaviyo in this business. We are a platinum Klaviyo partner, and one of the top 15 globally. And we have templates and automations and workflows available that are battle tested, and we know that they work. We've had over 500 projects run through this business, and we have that knowledge. So we're looking at creating some pre-built templates that you'll be able to purchase from the Growth Gurus. Things like, our award-winning abandoned cart flow, and, our high converting win-back flow, and our customer welcome and nurture flows. And we'd like to make those available to new and emerging brands that can benefit from them. So that's something that's a bit of a passion project that we'll work on. Yeah.
I got one more question, but I want to give you the opportunity to give a bit of a plug for your abandoned cart.
Yeah, look, I think abandoned cart templates, they're something that is so crucial. And when a brand first launches, they usually do an abandoned cart sequence of some description. When we do the strategy for an abandoned cart flow, there's a lot of different things that you can look at. It's not just about showing the customer the items that they've abandoned in their cart and just continuing to do it over and over and over again. It's showing them those items. It's showing them, other items that they might be able to purchase that are complementary to the one that they've potentially abandoned, but also sort of just going in and looking at all the reasons why somebody may have abandoned their cart, and then targeting all of those reasons. And that can actually be, which I touched on before, a medium to long sized flow.
Sure.
And it's not always targeted around, the item that the person has actually abandoned. Sometimes we start to inject a little bit of, brand profile and, information around why somebody might want to engage with it, not just from a sales perspective. You could expect to get very snappy subject lines and appealing call to action buttons. And certainly if the brand's using any sort of loyalty platform, we can help coach them around how to integrate that into the sequence. Our designs are amazing. We win a lot of work on the designs. So, having a template that, looks amazing and looks like it's been professionally designed, and also is focused on key content to get someone to take an action on the email and then come back through to the website is what you could expect.
So they should expect, customers should expect quite a good return on that investment. That's what you're saying.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent. So I've got my evergreen question I like to ask successful people. And you've obviously, you and your husband have been very successful yourselves in several different categories. And you've obviously been in touch with a lot of successful brands and perhaps some that are less successful. So in your opinion, what's the one key attribute of either a person or a company that makes them stand out from the crowd and become successful?
Oh, the one thing. Yeah, great question. If I was to say one thing, if I was to say just one, I would say it would be consistency. Consistency would be, right at the top for me. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the hardest things to do in business. It really is. I think it's week after week, it's quarter after quarter, consistently, doing the thing, over and over. And I think to drive growth, you really need to be consistent in your marketing and growth building tactics. Especially in this space, I think even more importantly than that, you've got to be consistent in your technology infrastructure. Using great technology platforms like Klaviyo and Shopify, it means that you're able to be stable and consistent. And, running a business, you've got so much to worry about. You've got so much going on. You don't need your technology platforms letting you down. That's kind of key. So having consistency both in your approach to your marketing and your growth building, but also in the technology infrastructure that you use is key.
Thanks, Annie. Very good advice. And in line with what a lot of our successful people tell us, there's literally, I think you can count on one hand the different things that the last 20 people we've asked that question have told us, and that's one of them. So great. Back to Kathleen.
So Hayley, how can people contact you?
Yes, we've actually just launched a new website. So they can contact us through the website, which is growthgurus.io. And there's a contact form at the bottom there, and you can pop your details in, and that comes through to myself or Matt, and one of our team will get in contact with you.
Excellent. All right. Well, Peter, I think we're just about out of time. So
we are indeed. So thank you very much, Hayley. Really appreciate that. That was very interesting, and just wish you success. And well, I'd love to work remotely for a company that had a head office on a peninsula in the warm part of Australia, and be compelled to fly in for monthly meetings or something. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's enough from me. Thank you, Hayley.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been really wonderful chatting with you today. I hope that was, helpful and interesting.
It sure was. Thank you so much. And thank you all so much for tuning in. We so appreciate you. And again, we love reading your comments, so please keep those coming. And if anyone out there is interested in being a guest on our show, please don't hesitate to reach out to Peter, either Peter or myself. So until next time, take care. Bye-bye, everyone.